took what I want, but you find that everything they've got, you step forwards to my shadow. You are follow in my pattern. I love.
Hello and welcome to the Ladies' Room. It's my pleasure today to have Monika Zasada. Zasada, did I say it right?
Yes,
Who
excellent.
is a curator of home construction. Monika worked with a very high-end construction company out here for what, 17 years or something?
20-something.
20-something.
Yes.
And now you help people get their projects together and really save them a ton of trouble and money and anxiety and everything else that goes with it. So it's great to have you here, and it's so interesting to hear all of the things that you do. And when we first spoke, because I met you through my German friend Marlies,
That's right.
and you were like building a hotel in Panama and all this stuff, I just assumed you were German.
Oh.
And then when you and I spoke on the phone, it turns out you're Polish. And I wound up getting a history lesson, which I found so interesting. So can you tell me a little bit about your background and how you came to the United States and what it was like living in Poland? And you told me that Poland like disappeared for how long?
123 years.
123
Yes.
years. How did that happen?
Well, we were partitioned. Poland was partitioned between...
What does that mean, partition?
We were just cut up as a country.
Oh, and given to different...
That's right.
Whoa.
Germany, Russia, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So disappeared from the maps of the world. Can you imagine that? And it's funny that you said you thought I was German.
I just assumed.
You assumed. And, well, it could be because I'm married to a German guy who I found on eHarmony, by the way.
That's amazing.
So if anybody is on the market for a husband, I highly recommend eHarmony.
And he's lovely and does all these great projects.
Yes, thank you. It's a match, well matched, because not only are we compatible on other
interests.
things, but yes, exactly. So my background in construction certainly came in handy when we were considering a development project in Panama. So that was very valuable. Now going back to Poland and what it meant to be in Poland, interestingly enough, I remember that as just like what I was used to, right? But at one point my nephew Boris got an assignment at school. He was supposed to interview a relative here, and I was the only relative that he had here. So
you were already in the States?
I was in the States. So he was in Sag Harbor School, and the assignment was interview a relative about their childhood memories. So he came to my house with my brother, and he started asking us questions. And my brother and I had a blast, remembering our childhood. You know, we were running around playing cowboys and Indians, or in
Poland.
In Poland, then communist Poland. Part of our time was spent, for instance, in lines for sugar. You see, my family had a piece of land that the state gave us to cultivate. So we had all sorts of, vegetables, potatoes, gooseberries, strawberries. There are fruit that have little hairs.
Oh, hairs.
Hair. I mean, it's fuzz, a little fuzz.
Yeah,
So like think, raspberry has a little fuzz.
Yeah,
So it's just a rounder.
Kiwis have
A little bit, yes. So gooseberries, and we needed sugar to make preserves, jams, and things. So my summer holidays, especially the last weeks, because this is where you cultivate
you put up the stuff,
the preserves. 2 last weeks were spent in line waiting for sugar from 8 in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But we really didn't know any better. So in the end, my brother and I are having a blast, bringing up all the memories. And I'm asking Boris, so Boris, what is your takeaway from this interview? And he said, your childhood was gray and difficult.
Well, you know, it's like that movie, the movie A Beautiful Life, where they're in the concentration camp, and the father doesn't want the child to know, and he just makes it like fun, riding a bike and stuff. But you actually lived in like 2 rooms. Your home was really small, right?
Yes, it was my apartment was maybe the size of this kitchen, literally. So
of this area.
Of this area here, right?
Yeah.
So in communist Poland, first of all, there was huge shortage of apartments, places to live.
Yeah.
So we only had 2 rooms, and they were called a big room and a small room. So a big room was my parents' bedroom at night. They would fold out a futon bed.
Wow.
When my youngest brother was born, there were 4 of us at some point. There
4
was
children?
4 children. Well, we started with 2 children. I'm the oldest, my brother, and then grandparents lived with us, and my parents. So
4
6
adults.
people, correct. So 4 adults, 2 children, or 2 adults, 4 children. So 6 people at all times, basically in this tiny room. So the big room was, like I said, the bedroom for my parents. There was a futon for the night, and then it was a sofa during the day. My parents would eat dinner at a coffee table or on their laps.
Didn't even have room for a kitchen table.
No, not really. I mean, it would be just too crowded. So the living room, the bedroom, the semi-dining room. So there was not a concept of having dinner at one table. They would be eating it in the big room. I would be eating it with my brother at a desk in the small room, which was, of course, also our bedroom at the same time. But you know what? Again,
you didn't know any
we
better.
didn't know any better, and we were so lucky that we had
go out the door and run around.
And we were running around a lot. And at some point, Judy, we were offered a place to live, a larger place, but because this 2-room apartment became my home, and you are putting it up, yes, my home, I could not conceive of leaving it and moving to another place. So.
And how old were you at that time when?
I think I was in elementary school. So I said, I can't. How can we leave our home? No, this cannot be. So eventually my grandparents moved because they were given by the state, they were giving a studio.
And now this is when Poland was back Poland.
Oh, yes. Oh, okay, so let's clarify that. So Poland, after 123 years of non-existence, in 1918, after the First World War, exactly on November 11th, so soon Poland will be, celebrating the independence again, was when we were reinstated.
November 11th.
Yes, it's
11/11.
1918. So yes, Poland by then was absolutely, we have been, yes, an existing country for many years, since 1918.
So, how did you get to the United States from Poland?
Well, I studied American literature. I majored
in Poland.
In Poland. My mom thought I was a little insane to be choosing, English rather than Russian, because she always thought I'm going to be a teacher, and it's either, to teach Russian or Polish. But I just got, I just decided I did want to. Did you
already have relatives in America, or did you have a dream of coming to America?
We actually had a few family members that came here after the Second World War. I had an uncle from Chicago who visited us, and I remember it like yesterday, Judy, because it was this huge deal. An uncle is coming from Chicago, America.
But did he stay with you in the little 2 rooms now?
He just came for dinner.
Okay.
He just came for dinner, and this is when we put a huge table in the middle of this big room, and there was essentially no more space. But then we sat and and of course celebrated the fact that he visited us.
Yeah.
That uncle left my mom $10, which was, Judy, literally like putting
like $1,000.
like more, like putting a down payment, I think, on a house here somewhere in the Hamptons. So my mom kept that $10 for years, and after I finished my studies and I majored in American literature and I was offered a position to teach at a university, I thought to myself, that would be so silly to be teaching the literature of the country I never visited. And lucky for me, the Poland then started to be turning to a free market economy country, right? It was much easier to come to the States. So with that whopping fortune of $10, which my mom gave me,
Oh
and
my
I thought like, I cannot squander this family fortune, right? And additional money that I made within 2 weeks translating a fascinating book titled How to Live with Irritable Bowel Syndrome.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Which I
maybe we'll get to that. There are so many people that have that, and I don't get it. But anyway.
Yeah. So 2 weeks drinking copious amounts of coffee. I translated this book from English to Polish.
Did the coffee give you irritable bowel?
No, I was lucky. And this is how I got money for the ticket to the States. So again, I came here and I thought to myself, I'm just going to be here for 6 months. I'm going to, just be exposed to culture, and then I can with clear conscience go back to Poland and teach the literature of the country that I now visited.
Right.
However, once I was here, Judy, I decided,
Boing.
yes, and I have to tell you, imagine this is, so I'm coming from the
Coming
country from, well, it stopped being gray and difficult for a little while, for a few years, because we started to get, more things from Western countries, so it wasn't totally gray and difficult. But when I came here, it was like being on a different planet.
Yeah.
Different planet. This just, it was so stimulating.
Yeah.
Different people, different cultures, different music and space. And I came to New York City. So it was the honking, it was the lights of the city and
square.
All just like very intense, right?
Yeah.
But yes, this is how I landed here.
So did you go back to Poland then, or did you just stay here? Did you go back to pack up and come back?
Well, I have to tell you that you are hosting someone who spent a night in jail. I don't know if you knew that.
You know what? So have I. So
well,
for another time.
For another time. So once I was here, I remembering.
What did you do?
I'll tell you in a second. So while I'm here, I decided, wow, I can make money, because my position in Poland would be very prestigious, but it would take me literally, Judy, 3 lifetimes to save for an apartment.
Yeah.
And remember my obsession with home.
Yeah.
I always wanted to have a home, right? An apartment.
Yeah.
And I decided I am staying in this country until I save $20,000 to be exact. I'm very exacting with money. And I decided to just, I did attempt to find a legal way to stay. I went to some fancy lawyer on Madison Avenue in Manhattan, and do you know what advice he gave me?
No.
He said, pay some guy
to marry you. That's
Green
what
card.
Everybody did back then.
But isn't that
in the 60s,
insane?
that's what everybody did.
It's insanity.
Everybody was marrying everybody just so they could become citizens and stay.
But isn't that funny that, with my education.
Did you go to jail because of that?
No, so what happened was I just said, this is insane. I'm not going to pay some stranger to get green card, right?
Yeah.
And I went and I just decided I'm staying here illegally until I saved the $20,000. So now fast forward 4 years later, I am on a trip with my then boyfriend in Arizona. We wanted
So you just stayed after you came the first time.
I stayed 4 years.
And you were here illegally.
I then eventually
illegal
became
alien.
illegal alien.
I totally believe that aliens are living among us. Totally.
And like I said, not for the lack of trying to become legal,
Yeah.
only to get the silly advice to pay some stranger, which to me was totally breaking the law.
Yeah.
Right? So I am like, I would be breaking the law. So here I am, I'm in Arizona, in the middle of nowhere, and we got stopped. We were on our way to see Grand Canyon. And I thought it was just I said to the officer, well, we are not really attempting to cross the border. And he said, no, it's just routine control. So I gave him my credit card. My boyfriend gave him nothing, and he actually had a green card. And there was another guy who was with us, Johnny, and all he had was a driver's license from Rhode Island. The officer disappears in this shack,
Yeah.
and he comes back after 10 minutes, and he points at me and he says, "You came to this country in February of blah, blah, blah. You overstayed your welcome by 3 years. You are arrested." Another guy, "You are arrested." To my boyfriend, "You can go free." So long story short, I spent a night in jail in Yuma, Arizona.
Can't imagine what that was like.
That is another story.
Funky, yeah.
Funky, yes. And then eventually I just got, sponsored by we got married, my boyfriend and I got married, and he was able to give me the green card.
But they let you out the next day?
Yes, I spent a night in jail.
And why did they let you out the next day? Did you have to be arraigned and go to
Well,
court or
they gave me
anything?
papers. Yes, I had to. They said, you have to appear in front of court in New York City, and then they decide.
So you got married right away? You and your
I got
boyfriend.
married about a month later.
And how long had you been with that boyfriend?
At that point, a few months only.
Ooh, and where is
Yeah.
he from?
He's no longer my husband, by the way. This is my husband number one.
Oh, right.
We
you
got
married.
divorced after 7 years.
Oh, you
Yes.
hung in there for a while.
Mhm.
And where was he from?
From Poland.
Also
Mhm.
Polish. Huh?
Also Polish. Yeah, we met at a name day party because we Polish people celebrate name days too. That's how we met.
You celebrate what?
Name days.
Name days. And what does that mean?
Well, we are Catholic country, so
Yeah.
usually you are named after some sort of a saint,
Uh,
and each saint has a specific day. So, like my name day is May 4th,
oh, that's
and
nice.
that comes in handy, Judy, because at some point women are not so keen on, recalling how old they are, and we prefer to celebrate name days. You don't have to be
instead
then
of
talking
birthdays.
exactly.
Oh,
Something to consider.
You know, it's funny when we were talking about 11/11.
Yes.
I looked up at the clock and it was 11/11. So this is going by very fast. We better start talking about how you got into home construction and what is it that you actually do to help people organize their projects.
So with my total obsession about home, what it means for us, right? It is one of the biggest, if not the biggest investment of our lives, right? It has so many meanings. It has such deep value. On the most basic level, it's our shelter. It gives us safety. It's emotional place, right? So I was always mesmerized with the concept of bringing homes to life. And I was lucky enough to meet a general contractor at a New Year's party, and he was asking me, "What do you need? What do you need? What do you want?" And I just blurted, and I said, "I want a challenge." And then him knowing about my education, he asked me to
In
join him.
American literature, by the way.
In
So
American
you didn't have
literature.
an education in construction.
I did not, but he actually wanted a person that wouldn't have any preconceived
Would think
notions.
outside the box.
Correct. So we started in a basement home office, and eventually the company became a multi-million-dollar construction company.
Wow.
At which point I left, having found my husband on eHarmony, as you might remember, and my husband owns some islands in Las Perlas Archipelago.
Some islands, a couple of islands.
A couple of islands and a little islet. So three
I hope
altogether.
They're not going to be impacted too badly by the rise in
We hope.
water.
Yes. Well, hopefully not.
They're big enough islands that they're not going to be
Yes.
submerged.
Yes, it's 7. Yes, yes. So that's we are
Yay.
good there. And this is when I realized that the whole home construction process is extremely complex, right? So when you Google like how to make my home construction successful, you are usually sent to either contractors or architects, and the fact is that people, mostly women, because women are at best
We get taken
patronized,
advantage of all the time.
at worst.
Buying a car, anything,
Right.
any major appliance. I bring a guy with
Yep.
me, even though he just walks around, and I do the deal.
Yes.
Just having a man with me
Is a
helps
must.
me negotiate. So
So I recognized, right, that most people find it very difficult to trust a contractor, and most people find it intimidating to approach an architect. hence the idea of curatorship came to mind, which is me assisting the clients from A to Z, which is from this aha moment of an idea for a project in your head, which can be as early as when you are looking for a parcel of land, or if you are looking to purchase a house, all the way to the zen-like feeling of your housewarming party, and then in all the mind-boggling in between. So helping you source the correct architect, helping you find the correct contractor, and then overseeing the project throughout.
And the pricing, because
Oh, yes.
we've met with architects, and there's such a wide range of, like, some of them are $350 a square foot, and some of them are like, you know, $1,200 a square foot. I mean, it's like a wide swath, and you really don't know what you're getting yourself into when you start working with an architect. And meanwhile, they're worth their weight in gold because they know how to use space so well.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing, but you have no idea what you're doing.
Correct.
As the customer, you have no idea what you're doing.
That's right. So a lot of what I do, Judy, has to do with educating people, because if once you know the process, you are really empowered. And the fact is that the building industry is very fragmented. It's very dysfunctional. It actually creates a situation in which the three main participants, the client, the architect, and a contractor, are sort of like a group of adversaries.
Yeah, they're in competition almost with each other.
Correct. So through my curatorship, I actually create a group of like-minded people that have the common goal, making you, the client, happy. Isn't that a much better approach?
Yeah.
So
and then do you then work with the different elements, like with the contractor picking the plumbers and the electricians, and do you look at what they're charging and what they're going to do and know if it's out of whack or?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So-
So in my role as a curator, I act as a design consultant, as an owner's representative, project manager, and a construction therapist. I mean, some people cried. I mean, it's
Therapist,
so
yeah, it's hard.
so emotional.
Yeah.
I sobbed on the stairs of my own home when I was renovating my home. So it's a very emotional process, especially for women again. So absolutely, I do make sure that the costs are captured in a very specific and detailed way, and applied to 16 cost categories. There are 16 cost categories in a project.
And what are the 16? You don't need to rattle off all 16, but for instance.
So for instance, it's site work, it's electric, it's plumbing, okay? It's woods and plastics and finishes,
Picking out the
foundation.
cabinets
It's actually fantastic to be using the 16 cost categories, because they organize the costs so well.
Yeah.
And then it's
And you don't forget anything.
ex-
Plug in all the things.
absolutely. You just
And
you
then
just
tell
nailed it.
everybody, okay, this is how it's going to go. That would be invaluable to a person when
It
they're
is.
building.
It is. And so it's very transparent. When I'm involved, it's very transparent. The clients see every single bill. If your contractor spent $1.37 on a screw, you are going to see it.
Wow.
And with each month, they are updating the budget. So you always know this was your budget. This is where the budget is now, because you could have decided that you want to
lumber,
splurge.
look at the
Oh,
difference
yes.
since the pandemic. The price of everything has like quadrupled or more.
Yes. Well,
Lumber is so expensive now.
it's been
I
insane
wouldn't want to have to build a house
right
now.
now. Yes. Well, let's hope it will go back to normal,
Yeah.
or it will at least stabilize, right?
Stabilize.
But again, so you at each moment when I'm involved, you know exactly where you are. You know there are columns in the budget report, what was invoiced before, what is invoiced, what is left to be invoiced, and then you always know how much money you are left to invest. So that's a fantastic tool.
Yeah.
It's a snapshot of exactly where you are financially.
When you get architectural renderings, they're just flat on the paper.
Yes.
So when you're looking at, and this is a room, and this is a bathroom, and you see the little toilet and the bathtub and stuff, to get it off the flat paper up into a building, where do you start? You start by picking a contractor?
Yes, I am starting actually with assembling the team. I am against.
Oh, you're going to Portugal
I
to
am.
go. What are you doing when you leave? When do you leave?
I leave tomorrow actually.
Oh, I leave Thursday to go to
Oh,
California.
okay.
We're both going to be traveling
Somewhere
around.
else, somewhere else.
But what are you doing in Portugal?
So I'm helping a client who had this dream. He's British and he purchased a piece of land in Portugal.
Uh-huh.
He has traveled the world on his motorcycle. Amongst others, he was in Australia. And he just fell in love with this Australian type of literature, which is one floor. So there are no multiple
Like
flooring.
Indonesia, where they have the different buildings.
Buildings,
Yeah.
yes. So his dream is to have a compound, an Australian compound. So I am going
Portugal.
in
I
Portugal.
want to meet him. Is he on eHarmony?
He's not.
Oh.
He's not. He has a lady friend, so he's taken. But yes, but I'm going to see, and the team is going to be hired at the same time. I don't do competitive bidding. It's a nonsensical practice. It is just nonsensical. It wastes time and money, and it doesn't give you in the end the correct number anyway.
But you do research the different
Oh
people.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. There are vetting questions that I ask because you see, it's a matter of extreme chemistry. You are
Yeah,
going to
sure,
spend a year
sure.
or longer. You
Everything
need
is
to-
vibration. Everything.
Correct.
You know what? We're out of time. Can you come back next week?
I will. I'm with
Because this is
pleasure.
so interesting. I will, and I wanted to talk to you about American literature too.
Fantastic.
Because it's just such a wild swing.
It is books
Anyway,
and construction.
thank you so much, Monika. And
Thank-
can you really come back
Yes,
next week?
yes. I will be
It's
here.
a deal. Thank you for joining the ladies' room today, and my guest, Monika Zasada. And remember, ladies, to give yourself lots of room. Room for love, room for fun, room to grow, and room to glow, and room to learn about how to deal with any kind of Mr. Fix-It kind of things that you need to get done, right? We need to find the right people out here
Yes.
to do those things, because boy, we can get to it, especially in the Hamptons.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that they hear Hamptons and right away the price goes up.
That's very true.
Anyway, I hope you join us next week, and thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Breathe in. Breathe in. Take